Excellency William Ruto to make his remarks and invite his guest, President Ruto And Ramaphosa. Thank you very much.
Please, let's take our seats. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa of the Great Republic of South Africa, distinguished ministers who are here, captains of industry, friends, good evening. First, let me take this opportunity on behalf of the government and the people of Kenya to welcome our friends, the business community from South Africa to Kenya, and to let you know that while you are in Kenya, count yourselves to be home away from home. You are most welcome to Kenya. This morning, I had extensive discussions with my elder brother, President Ramaphosa, and his team, and I want to thank His Excellency the President for delivering the good news to the business community and to the people of our two countries, making it possible for us to be able to travel, to be able to visit, to be able to do business, and to be able to work together in an environment that has little hurdles and that we have to jump little hoops to be able to get to the other side. Thank you very much, Mr. President. On behalf of the people and government of Kenya, we appreciate your gesture, your leadership, and your personal intervention in making sure that our officials are aligned so that we can work together. I just have two things to say to remind us. And I speak to the South African business delegation the way I do to our Kenyan business people. We are living in a continent that we have 1.2 billion people, with a GDP of $2.7 trillion. We have the youngest population in the globe. This is a continent of great possibilities and opportunities. These opportunities and possibilities are hindered by bureaucracy, red tape, regulations, and many things that impede our collective progress. I told our teams earlier, we cannot share poverty, but we can share wealth. And we need to work together to create wealth. And we must eliminate the barriers, the hurdles. Our borders must not be walls. We must turn our borders from being hurdles to being bridges. We must turn our borders from being hurdles to being facilitative, so that we can do trade, we can do business, we can make investment, and we can move people, goods, and services freely in our continent. Kenya and South Africa are struggling to export to Europe and all manner of places. And yet, there exists market and opportunity in Kenya and South Africa. Something must be wrong with us, honestly. We cannot continue this. Europe, you've heard, is trading at 70% of trade, intra-European trade. Africa is at 19%. What a shame. And we still want to have a conversation about, oh, you know, we have this regulation, and you know, we have this other regulation, and you have to wait. I mean, surely, good people. Sometimes, even when we want to make decisions at the policy level, the business people are the ones holding us back. Or, you know, that guy is going to take over my market, and the other guy is going to take over my market. Please, let us have one big market. Forget about your small market. Let us work together. Instead of selling to a few people in Kenya or selling to a few people in South Africa, let us sell to the many people in Africa by tearing down the borders that limit our opportunity to work together. I want to thank President Ramaphosa for working with my team and myself to eliminate some of the barriers that we have. Our ministers have instructions that South Africa and Kenya are in one neighborhood, and South Africa and Kenya we're going to build the infrastructure for you. We're going to make sure there is a sewer line, there is a road, there is electricity, there is water. And when you complete those houses, we're going to buy them from you. As soon as you complete, you hand over the keys to us. we pay you, you go to the next project as we look for mortgage for our citizens. You have opportunity. You have opportunity in our water harvesting program. We have decided that we are going to work with the private sector to deliver on our water harvesting program. We have already lined up the first 100 big dams, which we want to build using a water purchase agreement instrument. Build the dam, we will buy the water from you, and we will underwrite the purchase of that water from any of the investors, from our good friends from South Africa. There is tremendous opportunity for you to co-invest with us and for us to give you opportunity to earn good rands, good shillings, maybe even dollars from our working together under the private-public partnership window. We have sound South African investments in Kenya, from DSTV to Standard Bank and all the other operations. And I was very pleased to see the kind of partnerships in the various companies that we went through here in the grounds down outside here between South Africa and Kenya, from textile to furniture to manufacturing to fintech companies. And I want to tell you that South Africa and Kenya hold the key to unlocking the possibilities in the continent of Africa. We need to work together. And between me and my elder brother, I want to promise you that we are going to open doors for you, not just in Kenya, not just in South Africa, but in the continent of Africa, so that we can leverage on your expertise, on the resources you have to open our continent and to unlock the potential of wealth in the continent of Africa. I want to persuade you that this is an opportunity like no other. This is an opportunity of our lifetime. And even in the face of the challenges that we face with climate change and all the other attendant drought, floods, famine, we can still position our continent not just as a victim of climate change, but actually as a place where we can play a role in resolving the challenge of climate change. We have enormous resources in the green energy space. We have huge opportunities from our young people and the natural resources we have in this continent. The opportunity is beckoning for us to work together, and it starts somewhere. And I want to pledge that it starts with South Africa and Kenya. Thank you very much for listening to me. It is now my very humble duty to request His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa to be able to make his remarks. Mr. President.
Thank you. Let's be seated, please. Program Director, Your Excellency, President Dr. William Ruto, ministers from both our countries, South Africa and Kenya, business leaders who are here present with us. I'd like to convey my joy and my special thanks to you, my dear brother, for inviting myself and my delegation to come to your beautiful country, but more especially as your first state visitor guest during the first part of your presidency. Thank you very much. You've given us more than a warm welcome to Kenya. Having been to Kenya a number of times, this has been a very special visit, largely because of the manner in which the discussions between our two delegations have really gone to great success and to new heights. Your country is not only known for the stunning beauty of this great country, but it is also known as a powerful economy in East Africa. And we see South Africa and Kenya having a symbiotic relationship in a number of areas. There's so much that we have in common, that we share. Our value system is very similar. The principles that we uphold, very, very similar. We're democratic, and you are too. You uphold human rights, so do we. Your governance structures, institutions, and processes are really outstanding. So there's much that binds us together as the two countries, and we are overjoyed with that. And our visit to you comes at a time when the world is facing enormous challenges. And we've just been recovering from COVID-19, and that too was an enormous challenge. I just want to speak on some of the issues and reiterate and endorse what President Ruto has just been saying, particularly about the enormous opportunities that we have on our continent in relation to our positioning in the world, in relation to our population as a continent, and in relation to the youthfulness of our population. And also get us to look back where we've come from. We're a continent that is quite resilient. Sometimes we browbeat ourselves into helplessness and submission and all that. I've always enjoyed President Museveni's take on our continent when he says, we are a continent of resilient people because we are survivors. We survived the most
external element here of the needed close cooperation between the executive and the judiciary, but intra, there needs to be communication from within.
And we have emerged as independent countries, proud of our identities and surging forward. I mentioned COVID advisedly because as the world was gripped by this massive pandemic, as a continent we were able to distinguish ourselves in the manner in which we approached and we addressed COVID. We're able to unite and to act as a continent in an integrated manner. If you ever want to talk about African integration, I saw it with my own eyes during COVID, when right at the outset, African strategy of how to address and to approach COVID. And no other continent that I know of, even to a little extent Europe, was able to develop as good a strategy as we did. And that spoke to our integration. And we lived up to the strength, the resilient strength, and possibly hidden strength that we have
whereby
as
a
Africans
decision is scaled.
who have
But a lot of
survived
times when
a
parties
whole lot of other
want to,
terrible things that were
insist
done
on
to us
corruption,
as a
you'll
people.
find,
And
the
having
battlefield
developed that
already
strategy,
knows the answer of
when
the
the
case.
world was at sixes
You know
and
from the
nines,
evidence presented,
trying to
the
get
litigant is so keen
personal
to
protective
pay something
equipment, and
to get things
when
go their
all
way,
countries were running all
because
over
they
the
don't know
world,
exactly how the case will turn
overpaying
out.
for
And I believe that can
PPEs
be
and what have
cited,
you,
can be supported.
going to
And
suppliers
when you have,
all over
very
the world,
serious,
China, Europe,
Chief Justice
and
like
being
Ramaphosa,
overcharged.
I
We
believe
united once
she's in
again
touch,
and
and
established
she's going to follow up a
an
lot of
African
matters. But more
medicine
important,
supplies platform
Kenyans should be allowed
where
to
we
speak.
all got
And there must be
together
a
and
forum,
started buying
where,
our
without
PPEs
victimizing
at
the
reduced
whistleblower,
prices.
information should be
That
able
too
to
was
be
phenomenal.
such
And
a
we
case
did
with
it
corruption,
because
such
we
a- such
became
an officer,
integrated and
you know, things
united.
which can be verified.
Whilst that was going ahead,
is soliciting
the era
from-
of
from
vaccines
money. And the
came to
moment
the
that
fore.
information is
And
exposed,
once
the
again,
moment judicial officers
we
they know they are being
united
watched,
and
the
put
moment,
together
they know if
a
they are named
vaccine
police, you do your
acquisition
job,
entity.
or live
No
thereafter
other
will be very
continent
complicated.
put
Then it
up
becomes
a
easy,
vaccine acquisition
for us to
entity
fight
like we
corruption
did.
in judiciary.
And we were
And again
able
also,
to
the independence
procure
of
and
judiciary is
amass
very important.
vaccines
That's what I'm saying.
in the most
their money
effective
should go
manner.
out straight away
And
from
that
the
to me
exchequer,
showed us
without it
that
having
working
to be pushed
together,
by the executive. We
precisely
cannot
the
have,
point that President
the
Ruto was
executive,
making, we are able to
seeming to be the
achieve
one rescuing
enormous feats
the judiciary.
and demonstrate
It should be
to
an
the
automatic
world. And
thing.
in fact,
If
the
judiciary
world
have a budget,
was
let it be funded.
quite
So
surprised
that
at the
it
manner
doesn't look like
in which
the
Africa
government is playing
was
politics
able
of
to
judiciary
unite
or
and
has now
address
become
a
very friendly
pandemic
with judiciary,
like
and the
this.
previous regime was
So
not friendly,
if we
or
work
other
together,
regimes, like
we're
the
able
one
to
cited, you know, like the day the
achieve
president
much
used to
more than
appoint,
what we imagine.
the judges single-handedly, you know,
President
what it
Ruto
means when the
speaks
president or the
about
government
climate
has a case.
change.
All right.
That judge is already
Where
compromised.
now our
Thank you.
countries are being
Honorable Gladys, you had a point
ravaged
earlier.
by
Proceed.
climate
Yes,
change,
I think
droughts,
the point I
floods,
want us to move from
fires,
this notion
pests,
that,
you name it.
that
And it is this
that the fact that,
that,
the
as
current
President Ruto is saying,
has
that we need to
honored certain
unite,
pledges to help
work
the independence of
together,
the judiciary. For
and
example, the appointment
address
of the judges.
even
The
climate change. And
appointment of the
out of
judges
it all,
was
we
a
should be able to
requirement
see
of the law.
new
Judges
opportunities,
are appointed by
as
the
President
Judicial
Ruto was
Service,
saying, new
are
industries,
interviewed and
new
nominated by the
sectors,
Judicial Service Commission,
and
the
make sure
President
that we
does a
enter those
ceremonial
new
event
sectors
of
and
approving
excel
of signing the Gazette
in the
notice that
most
gazettes them to
outstanding
judges
manner.
and swears them in.
Having
So he
just
has his
returned
role.
from
His role is
COP27,
not to interview or
held
interrogate
on
judges.
African
What
soil in
happened
Egypt,
the issue of the,
where
six
the
judges,
stark realities
I mean, the so
about
many
climate
judges that the
change were
president,
demonstrated
refused
to
appoint
all.
at that time,
As
was that
Africa
he's
and as
alleged
African
that he had
leaders,
received a
we
report
made
from
it
the
very
National
clear
Intelligence Service that
that
certain
our
judges are
countries
not
cannot
suitable.
afford
The issue is the law says
further
if you have
rise
such
in global
information, you
temperatures,
petition the Judicial
but we
Service
also
Commission
collectively
to
called
establish
upon
to
the
recommend
more
establishment of a
developed
tribunal
economy countries
if that it's found that those
to
allegations
honor
are
their
correct,
commitments.
but not for the president to take it upon himself
And they have been
and do the
making
job of the
commitments
Judicial Service Commission and the tribunal
over
at
and
once.
over
So
and
it was
over
a
again.
disobedience
In
of the law,
COP21 in Paris,
period.
they made a
was not-
commitment that
and
they
so
would be investing
what,
$100
President
billion
William Ruto
or
has
making
done now
available
was
$100 billion
simply
per year.
to the law. It is not his
They
place
have not
to
met
decide
those
who becomes
commitments.
judge. It is
Now,
decided by the Judicial Service
collectively,
Commission,
a
and the
number of
Judicial Service
African
Commission
leaders who
has
were
done,
there,
had already done
all
that.
of us,
On
one
the question of,
message,
CJ,
several voices, we
Talking
said,
about corruption,
we
I think,
want
it's something that must be
them
noted.
to address the
issue
loss
of,
and the damage that
removing,
our
corrupt
countries are
practices within the
suffering
judiciary
from.
has to be a
And once
continuous
again,
process.
Africa
And,
is
many,
showing
systems
great
will
deal
have
of
to be put in
integration
place
of
to check
thought,
that. It is good that they have
effort,
undertaken an
and
audit.
articulation
I know that various steps
by saying
can
to
be
the
done.
world,
And I
we
will give an
want you
example
to
of,
address loss
the
and
collection of
damage.
fines,
We
traffic
are
fines that
hardly
used to happen.
responsible as
I
a
mean,
continent
we had the
to the
example
damage
of,
that has been done
the
and
Kibera
continues to be
locusts,
done
the
to
Kibera
climate.
locusts. During
And
my
we
tenure, we
therefore
established something called
want
fine
you,
chapter.
yes,
So
to
what happened
pay
is
up.
that people got
It is
instant
about
fines.
time that
Immediately,
the money
the collection of fines
is
in
brought
traffic
to
cases,
Africa
Kibera locusts
to
at that
enable
time
us to
moved
address
from
the
50,000
damage
a
they
day
have caused to
almost
our
500,000.
climate.
Why? the money, the fines were being paid and directed to the court as opposed to being paid to
being
police
here
officers
at this business
and other
forum,
side people. So you can actually
for me,
use technology
and
to
as
actually
President
stop
Ruto was
corruption.
saying,
The other challenges that the
based
judiciary
on
normally
what
will
we've
have
been able
is
to
that
do in
at
the past and the positions
the registry clerks
that we've
sell
collectively
the
taken
court dates. So
as
basically,
a
you'll be told the
continent,
diary is full until next year.
it brings forward
And,
an important
if you paid some money, then you got
opportunity
an earlier date.
and
That's what used to
message
happen. If
about
you digitize the
what
register,
the
the diary,
business
for example,
community
then
should
it
be
means it
able
removes
to
any
do,
human intervention in obtaining
working together with your
of the-
various
of the-
governments,
of the diary.
for
It's the way
us
you
to
apply
search
for a visa
forward
appointment.
to
You go
address
online,
the
you
issue
pick a
of
date that is
integration.
vacant, and you click
It
on
is
and
about
that
time
becomes your
that
date.
indeed
So nobody has to
Africa
do
is
any
more
favors or interaction with
integrated.
anyone to get
When
it
we
done.
look, as
Putting CCTV cameras
President
in our
Ruto
registries
correctly said,
in our
when we
corridors,
look at
that will also
other continents,
be able
especially
to-
Europe,
that will help. So it's
their
a
intertrade is
sensitization
up
of the
to
entire
70%,
justice system.
and ours
They have
is a
very good
paltry less
strategy.
than
I have had
20%.
occasion to see it on how to
And when
deal
you
with
go
corruption in the
into
judiciary,
the
and I think it
markets
will be weeded
that we
out,
have,
from time to time.
as
There
you
is
go into our
also,
markets,
because police
and when you
officers
pick up
bring,
goods, I
human beings
often
to the-
begin looking where these
the
goods
court.
are made.
And
I get
sometimes you
appalled
find
when I
that,
realize that goods
they
that we
don't
could
bring
have
them on
made
time, so the
ourselves
cases can't proceed.
on the
So sometimes you
continent
find remandees
are
having to
imported
bribe police
from
officers so
other
that they can actually
environments
be
in the
taken to
world.
court. Again,
And
that
this
can be
is what
cured by
we now
making sure
need
police
to
officers
live
wear
up
body
to,
cameras so that we
and
can be able to
address
see what they are doing
the
at
issues
all
that
times,
hold us
anytime
back.
they're interacting with the public. And
What
that
is
where
it
the
that
country should be going.
holds us
So
back?
any traffic police
And
officer
here
or anybody,
I
any
speak
police officer
to
interacting
us
with the
as
public
business and
must
also
wear
as
a body
government.
camera.
Okay.
Then that
What's
way
holding us
they will
back
be
seems to
held
be
to account.
fear.
It's transparency and accountability.
Fear of the unknown,
ladies and gentlemen, let's
where
now
we
take a look at
almost
some
fear
of the
our
tweets
own
and sample them.
shadows,
The hashtag
and
on
are
Twitter,
worried about
just some,
surging forward,
as, we head
confronting
towards the tail end of
those
the broadcast
shadows.
And do the others,
Today, we
towards,
were able to
the
announce,
culmination of
for
the
instance,
broadcast. Here's what
that there should
this
be
is saying, and
visa-free
only in Kenya,
travel between
that
South
a
Africa
government pays 35 billion Kenya shillings to ghost workers
and
things
Kenya
look and
by
go normal
Kenyans
to the
going to
responsible
South
authorities,
Africa,
like the
that
Ethics
you
and
no longer
Anti-Corruption
need to
Kenya.
have a visa.
It's like this, not of much concern or little concern, and the next government will do the same. That's according to Babu Michael 1 on Twitter. He still says, I haven't heard of continuous audit reports about the judiciary. Does this mean there is no wastage of funds? Does it mean that the integrity of the judicial officials is of highest level, or there is some restrictions in that direction? Bob Otieno Owino says the harmony between the executive and the judiciary is a healthy thing to our country, especially to poor Kenyans seeking justice. Kudos to the President, William Ruto, unlike last regime where they were pulling in different directions. Godi Barasawere says we should be able to see and feel the judicial independence through expeditious, fair and just judgments. The high and mighty and caveats people in the society found on the wrong side of the law must be brought to book. And Remy Butia says Kenya's constitution calls for a justice system that is accessible, affordable and comprehensible to ordinary people, and that dispenses justice fairly, speedily and without discrimination, fear or favor. Kipngeno Headboy says, so far the common hustlers have nothing to celebrate. The big guys or wigs are busy positioning themselves ready to eat from the national cake. By the look of things, it might even take time for the common mwananchi to start getting morsels. And the last one here from Sawa says, we now expect the judiciary to clear all the cases now that they have judges. The president have promised to increase the budget by 3 billion Kenya shillings. They have no reason why cases must now reduce and Kenyans must get justice. I beg your pardon, thanks. That's according to some of your tweets on the hashtag Daybreak at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. And so in regards to the independence of the judiciary that we talked about and the cases of the backlog that the judiciary dispensed with, here is a soundbite from the Chief Justice Martha Koome on the ruling in regards to the election petition 2022 and some of the wordings that the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition political party questioned after the court dealt with the matter before the president was later sworn in as the 5th president of the republic. Here's what the CJ said.
Those are English terms. Perhaps they angered some people, but they were not meant to offend anybody. It was just an expression of the finding of the evidence that was presented before the court. There were some forms which were brought from 34As, relying on the evidence which was hearsay. Nonetheless, the court went ahead to look at the original forms 34As to compare with those forms which were arranged to have been interfered with.
My arm, and with that, we were able to agree that
the court went ahead to ask for the boxes, the ballot boxes, from all the polling stations where those allegations emanated from, where there was said to be interference. And Kenyans watched when scrutiny was done of those original forms in the boxes, comparing them with the original forms that were brought by IEBC. That exercise took no less than 36 hours. And that's why perhaps the court said, we did all this, but it turned out to be a wild goose chase.
sometimes we have these photosanitary rules that only apply one way and so forth. Of Transnet was who do what is necessary, and Minister or Secretary of Trade here in Kenya, on his very second day in the job, immediately came to sleep in South Africa to begin the process of unlocking some of the constraints and the strictures, and sit down with Minister Patel, and they've made enormous progress just in a short space of time. So I really applaud them, and the same applies to our other ministers. So we've got ministers on both sides who are determined to improve the relationship between South Africa and Kenya, so that we are able to capture the opportunities that lie ahead. And that behoves well for the future relationship between us as we open channels for you all as business people. Now, I'm particularly pleased that there are so many of you who have come here from both South Africa and here, and we hope that you will be able to move from the contacts that you're making to contract, because the opportunities are many. They are even unimaginable. And all we want to do is to open those opportunities, because our continent is hungry. It has a great appetite for industrialization, and it has a great appetite for new investment in factories, in logistics systems, and I'm very pleased to hear that Kenya is going to set up warehouses in South Africa for Kenyan goods that must come into South Africa. We welcome that, and we are open to that. Before coming into this meeting hall, President Ruto was ushering me through the various stalls that were here, and he's a very good salesman. He was, all morning he's been trying to sell me Kenyan tea, Kenyan coffee, avocados and all that. So as you see me, I'm full of tea as it is now, of Kenyan tea. So the opportunities are enormous. And as he was speaking up the opportunities, I want to reiterate that indeed we just see great opportunities, and opportunities that straddle between the private sector, opportunities as well as the public sector, opening up the Kenyan market for both our state-owned enterprises as well as our private sector. But similarly, President Ruto, I'd like to say we want to open up also South Africa's market for your goods and services, and indeed for your public sector companies that can come to South Africa to do business. So in the end, it should be a two-way process. I was also particularly pleased to see a stall where medical products are also manufactured here, which speaks to precisely what I was saying earlier, where we were able as the African continent to push the world to get us to manufacture our own vaccines and to push the world, the WTO and so on, where we said we want to be able to manufacture therapeutics and diagnostics as well. So it was a joy to see a company here in Kenya that is already making that. We've had enormous breakthroughs. And as we make these breakthroughs as government, we are saying we want the private sector to follow in suit so that you notice and see all these opportunities that can be capitalized on. Now, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is another great opportunity. Despite the little hurdles that are in place where we are supposed to get a few countries to unlock the full-blown implementation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and we are going to do that. In our own neighborhood, we have to get Lesotho to come along, the country that you didn't want to mention. We will do so. And in your own region, you've got others. Now, imagine the two economies. And let's not forget that Kenya and South Africa, Kenya is a very big and vibrant economy in East Africa. And South Africa is a big and vibrant economy. So we link the two regions in the world, and I've often said we link with Nigeria, we link with North Africa, and the continent is our playground. And that's exactly where we want you as businesses to play. So the quest that we have and the dream that we have, and imagine we also started it during COVID, but we also immediately started saying we need to scale up. We can't be running after a number of countries around the world and say when we are sick, we want you to supply us with vaccines and syringes and therapeutics and so on. We've got to make our own. This is Africa's century, and we must capture it and demonstrate to ourselves and those who will come after us that we did take up the opportunities. And now we've already demonstrated that we can. We can make vaccines here on the continent. The agreement that we got the world to start focusing on is to say there are a number of countries on the continent. South Africa is one, Kenya is one, yes, Rwanda is one, Senegal is another, Egypt is another. We can make our own vaccines. Just open up the regulatory strictures in the world. And that we have achieved. We're now pushing for therapeutics and diagnostics. And I think we will succeed if you, as business people, demonstrate to us that you are willing, ready, and prepared to take up all these opportunities that we're making. They're opening up. So that's the question of fear. We must get rid of the fear that we have, and the regulatory strictures we will take care of. So the opportunities are enormous, and I'm really glad that we can have this opportunity for me and President Ruto to come and hear your report. It's a very good report. It's a positive report and forward-looking. It enables us to unlock opportunities for trade between our two countries, and we will want to take further steps to increase overall trade. We've already heard that trade can scale $1 billion, and it can go even, between our two countries, it can go even further. And when we talk about trade, when I talk about trade, I'm not talking about one way. It's not only South Africa to sell, it's for Kenya to sell. I want to see Kenyan tea and coffee in South Africa as well. So we want to open our market, and we also want to open up investments. On the public side, President Ruto has already said, in housing, where, yes, we have developed a really good and special skill. We've built 4 million houses, and you need 2 million. We can work together. But in working together, we want also to build capacity to transfer the skills and the capabilities, so that as Kenya, you can also come and build houses in South Africa in time to come. So it has to be seen as a two-way process. So if we can look at all this in a broad sense, we will find that the sky indeed is the limit. We've got endless opportunities. And on our side, we want you as the business community not to tire, to keep raising the issues that are important to you. You've got great access. President Ruto is accessible to the business community here. And as we were going around the stalls, nearly everyone was focusing more attention on President Ruto, forgetting that I'm a buyer of Kenyan goods. They were focused, and I said, no, that is a good sign, because they look at him to unlock opportunities. Way back home, they look at me also to unlock opportunities. So both of us are accessible, are able to see how we can open up the opportunities and support you. So what I can say as I conclude is that we are here to support, to egg you on. Similarly, you as business people, take up the opportunity of having two governments that support you, two governments that want you to succeed, and two governments that are hungry, that are determined to grow our two economies. These are two strong economies in two parts of our continent. Let us work together. And that is what has brought me and my delegation here. And I'd like to thank you for being here and also for reporting to us as well as you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. We may be seated. I wish to most humbly request Your Excellencies to invite you here for a photo opportunity. The first photo with Your Excellencies here on stage. For the second photo, Your Excellencies will be joined by the Cabinet. Welcome, Your Excellencies. The second photo, you'll be joined by the Cabinet Secretaries responsible for foreign affairs and trade for the two countries. So Cabinet Secretaries, Moses, Cabinet Secretary. Welcome, Your Excellencies. The second photo, you'll be joined by the Cabinet Secretaries responsible for foreign affairs and trade for the two countries. So Cabinet Secretaries, Moses, Cabinet Secretary. Welcome, Your Excellencies. The second photo, you'll be joined by the Cabinet Secretaries responsible for foreign affairs and trade for the two countries. So Cabinet Secretaries Moses, Cabinet Secretary